So in overthinking it, as you saw from our video, we specialize in applying our faculties to things that we love. Pop culture that we love, that we feel is sometimes illegitimized by the sort of culture at large, the hegemonic discourse, if you will. And tonight we're going to talk about hegemonic discourse in the context of one of our favorite pop culture icons, with a presentation that we like to call Gold Chains of Social Capital, Subaltern Strategies of Resistance and the Coercive Authority of the State in Mr. T-Oriented Fool Pity. So we'll take this a little bit slow at first. Well, I'm going to advance the slides by saying jibba jabba. So when I say jibba jabba, turn next slide, jibba jabba. All right, so here we have a little invocation, a little epigraph of what we're doing. If you can't read it, the first is a quote from Virgil. Remember by, and this is Anchises says this to Aeneas in the underworld in book 6 of the Aeneid, when he's showing the history of Rome. Too slow there. I don't want to insult anybody. Okay, so remember by your strength to rule earth's peoples, for your arts are to be these: to pacify, to impose the rule of law, to spare the conquered, batter down the proud. I like it better translated as crush the arrogant. But that's the translation that we were working with. And then to try to fit Mr. T into what we would like to call the hegemonic discourse for the evening, I was struck by the resonance between that and a quote from Rocky III. No, I don't hate Balboa, but I pity the fool. Now, for me, what this parallelism shows, the absurdity of it shows that Mr. T doesn't really have a place in our hegemonic discourse, or does he? And to outline a little bit, the term subaltern is a term that comes from subcontinental India during British rule that refers to people who live outside of the way that the sort of ruling society uses words to describe them. Jibba jabba. Mr. T. And so I'm going to present briefly some pastiche of Mr. T as an outsider from the hegemonic discourse, trying to violently oppose the way that people ought to think about him, and to represent a new kind of strength, a new kind of discourse. So in the A team, you can see that he throws people, he doesn't get on planes, he drives a really cool van. At any rate, he's accused of crime he didn't commit, he lashes out in violence and with plans that come together against people who are part of the hegemonic discourse but are unjust. Jibba jabba. I'll move through the next two quickly. Rocky III, he actually beats Rocky and disrupts the whole world order that Rocky exists in. He's sort of this disruptive element that comes in and kind of crushes the whole narrative that's existed at this point, forces Rocky to almost in an epic journey reinvent his world. I love this quote here. What did you say, paper champion? I'll beat you like a dog, you fool. I like it better when it's said almost like that. He said a little different. All right, jibba jabba. And this is from TNT, which is the same as the A team, except he has a female lawyer as his partner. And that is a poster, I believe, from a VHS tape from Germany. Just goes to show that Mr. T, he plays the same. He plays this character that in turn plays characters. So he plays Mr. T is a meta character, right? Mr. T's real name is like Lawrence or something. But anyway, jibba jabba, which for me puts together this idea of Mr. T. This is one of our first Mr. T archetypes. Mr. T, the meta-rebel, who is this sort of representation that cuts across cultural franchises and tries to fight against a world that doesn't even have words to describe him. And so you'll see this quote here, and this is from Be Somebody or Be Somebody's Fool, which we'll talk about shortly, which is a wonderful, wonderful thing. My folks came from Africa. They were from the Mandinka tribe. They wore their hair like this. These gold chains I wear symbolize the fact that my ancestors were brought here as slaves. And there really isn't a greater marginalization than that of the person who, comes from an ancestry whose past was stripped away by slavery and the sort of crushing of families and all the other things that happened there. The recovery of the African American from slavery is one of the great subaltern stories of United States culture.
I'm going to actually disagree now. You lay a convincing case of Mr. T as this rebel, as this violent force outside of society, but jibba jabba. This is not the Mr. T that I know. I know the Mr. T that used rap to teach me to respect my mother and not do drugs. Jibba jabba. I know the Mr. T that banded together a multi-ethnic coalition of teenage gymnasts to tour the country and solve mysteries. Jibba jabba. Mr. T that taught me that PCP is bad, but doing straight A's is cool. Jibba jabba. I know the Mr. T that got back the Pirate's Gold and gave me 12 collector's stickers. Jibba jabba. The Mr. T I know is strong, but he is the benevolent arm of the state. And the Mr. T that enforces the social order within which we all live. Without Mr. T, truly our lives would be nasty, brutish, solitary, in short. We need his Hobbesian python biceps. Together. Jibba jabba. But this creates an inherent contradiction with Pete's construct of the meta-rebel. The idea of the Leviathan, or T-Viathan, as we could call it, are in strict thesis-antithesis relationship with one another, creating what we could call jibba jabba. And how do we resolve this contradiction? Through confusion? No, through synthesis. Through creation what we would like to call the Mr. T Party. The Mr. T Party. I present Dr. Shechner.
Thank you. As I think the only member of Open Thinking who has experience with synthetic chemistry, I'm here to bring synthesis to this. Jibba, wait for it. Jabba. Okay, so the thing is, particularly in philosophical and theological constructs, there is the recurring trend throughout the course of human history of what we call the Promethean character, right? So Prometheus, of course, demigod, Prometheus and Atlas, Arthurian, brings fire to humankind because of his pity of them and is punished for that sin of other gods. And this is a character which recurs time and time again in the form of, say, Jesus of Nazareth, or Siddhartha Gautama, later called Buddha, or Elvis Presley. Someone who, you have the earthly class of we lowly dwelling beings who must toil away in our daily accord, and then you have the angelic class of those with infinite power, infinite control over fate, and moreover control over our moral hierarchy. And it is the point of the angelic class to exert that morality upon all of us. And the Promethean character brings down aid to us in suffering underneath their thumb, in the form of fire, Prometheus, and everything Elvis in the form of Elvis. What did he do? It was fantastic. His fried peanut butter and sandwiches is what he brought to Earth. But importantly, does not do this as sort of the benevolent face of the angelic class, but does it as a hybrid human that lives amongst us and epitomizes the greatest ideals of us. And I argue, what could be a greater ideal to lean towards than Mr. T? So we've seen clearly he is this unstoppable force fighting against society, but he is also the greatest embodiment of all the things that we are. And as such is clearly the modern Prometheus. So we have a political party for him called the Mr. T Party, Jibba Jabba. What is the Mr. T Party? It is a grassroots social movement. We are looking at the best things within ourselves and are harnessing all of those as epitomized in T to bring together and celebrate this great man, this great meta-deity. It is something which is going to bring unification to our fractured and fractious America. And of course, amongst all other things, it is going to bring back what I like to call the real America, that embodies the values and virtues that I knew as a child growing up. Respecting our mamas, staying away from drugs and in school, consuming milk, roaming the country with a team of gymnasts, rapidly escaping from maximum security prison, accused of a crime we did not commit. So what aims the Mr. T Party? Jibba jabba. We are not discriminative. We are about unity. I mean, if you look at the man, certainly from his skin color, his sartorial style, his haircut, he's at least African American and Native American, if not Caucasian, and I'm gonna guess Roma. We are not a negative party because that sort of speech is the way of being someone's fool, which is of course a carnal sin. We're not profane, and we certainly ain't getting on no plane. That brings us back to Fenzel. Tell us what you can do to be part of Mr. T.
So here's the bottom line, jibba jabba. May 21st is Mr. T's birthday. Mr. T's turning 58 years old. And we felt on overthinking it that we wanted to pay tribute to Mr. T and his contribution to ideas of power and structures of authority in American civilization by calling upon anybody who finds this hilarious and or interesting to participate, either by watching an episode of the A-Team, wearing some gold chains, having a party. I'm going to hope that we can get some people to stand outside with picket signs that say, like, I pity the fool, cut the jibba jab, etc. But that remains to be seen how successful that will be.
Outside of where?
Okay. Airport.
Yeah. All right. We just want to plant this seed because I feel like the only real way that you can expand the hegemonic discourse is to create new centers of power. Jibba jabba. And that's just a sample of the kind of stuff you get on overthinkingit.com.